All right, we are back with the Sayless Projects podcast part two. My name is Vincent, and today I have the pleasure of interviewing the one and only Air Noble. What up, Noble? So now we got you in the hot seat. So now you're going to be the first of this year's runners for Sayless Projects Year 2 to talk about your story and why you joined Sayless. And so I'm excited to have you here and grateful for the opportunity to share your story. So let's get right into it. First and foremost, I'd love to hear you just kind of introduce yourself, who you are, where you're from, and kind of like how you got into running. Like, why is running important to you?
Yeah, okay. So government name, Noble Crawford the fourth. LE, not EL, but it's cool. I'm from Arlington, Southside Ag. Grew up in Arlington, Grand Prairie. Went down to San Marcos for college. Lived in Austin for a couple of years post, and then now I'm back home because Dallas is home. Started running in high school. I used to run the 100 and the 200, just because for football and wrestling, they made us run track in our off season. I hated it. Didn't run anymore up until probably like 3 or 4 years ago. I'm gonna age myself here. I was like 25, 26, and I was, working out more. And I was like, okay, I need to do cardio. I was like, well, what better way to do cardio than to run a mile before my workout? Yeah, I couldn't do that. Like my mile time was like 20 minutes. And I was like, for me to be, it was pretty slow. And I'm like, for me to be the age that I'm at and I can't run a mile, something's gotta change. And that's pretty much how I got into running, was just for better health, better wellness. Um, and then there's another reason why, but I think I'll try to save that one for later. But yeah, that's pretty much the gist. And then I've been running ever since. Ran into this guy. That's why I'm here.
Awesome. Well, having just ran the Austin half marathon with you, you've come a long way in just a few years from a 20-minute mile. Um, so what's one of the most memorable runs you've ever had? It doesn't have to be recent, it can be older, maybe something besides almost dying on the 20-minute mile you did.
Yeah, one of the most memorable runs was completing the Irving Half Marathon in December. And that goes into another reason why, like, I got into running and why I still run to this day. Is before my grandfather had passed, I used to tell him about my runs. He was actually one of my main supporters, and he was proud of me for doing something so active. And every week he would ask me, "How many miles you run this week?" And I would tell him.
Mm.
And then before he passed, I told him that this year I am going to run a half marathon. And, he passed more suddenly than we had hoped. So I ran that one for him. And that to me was a extremely memorable moment.
That's incredible, man. And I appreciate you being willing to share about that. I think for all of us, running helps so much when you're going through all of that. And we'll dive more into that. With Say Less in particular, I mean, you were one of the first people to join our team from the graphic design and creative perspective last year when I had the idea. I'd love to hear, like, when I first asked you to help me with this, it's some of it's kind of a blur for me because it all just happened so quickly. But what was like your initial thought when I was like, "Hey, we're gonna run from Dallas to Austin. Can you help me out with this?"
Yeah, I love the concept. I love what it stood for. I loved what it was about. And then I know for me, more so on like the mental health aspect of it, because unbeknownst to you, uh, around the time you had approached me with the idea was around the same time we had found out that my grandfather had stage 4 cancer. So mentally, I was extremely, extremely distraught. The whole family was. But it kind of worked out in a way to where it's like I knew that this was the direction that I needed to go with, like the timing of it, and like, finding out the news, being, in sheer like mental anguish and just like not knowing what to do, how to help. And then, having you approach me with this, it just felt like right place, right timing. And I resonated with everything you were saying. And I was like, wow, like, like this is something that I like not only like can get behind, but like I want to do it. I have a yearning to do it. Like it just hits so close to home. And yeah, That's pretty much. So as soon as you sent the idea and said what you want to do, I was like, yes, I'm in.
I had no idea, man. Like this is the first time I'm hearing that part of your reason why you said less. That's crazy. I just remember you telling me that mental health meant a lot to you, but I didn't know that you were carrying that. And that's, I mean, again, just amazing to see that you were able to, use that, what would maybe be bad news, to kind of channel your energy and do something positive. And I'm sure, I mean, I know you made your grandfather proud being a part of that and running and doing all the things you've been doing. Let's keep going, man. So every runner has like a reason why they lace up their shoes. And I think obviously you just kind of alluded to like a grandfather being one. When it comes to like this year, now you stepping on the other side of the graphics and the things that you're helping me with, what's another reason why you're saying less to run, to do the running part from Dallas to Austin? Because it's a relay, or for clarity purpose, for some people, they may not know it's a relay, so you're not running it the whole way by yourself. But what's one of the big reasons why you're doing that?
I would say I'm not that much of an outspoken person. If you know me, you know I'm very quiet. I'm a fly on the wall. I hang back in the back. I don't really talk too much. But for topics like this, I want to be able to say something, and I think running allows for me to do that while still maintaining, my who I am. Like I don't have to say much. I can let the miles that I run speak for me. Especially for a cause like this, it's definitely something that I want to support. I just, I'm not the biggest or loudest person in the room, and running allows for me to make up that gap and be able to get the word out there, without having to be so like outgoing or as energetic as the next person might be.
I love that. It's so important because, like, you, me, like, when we kind of run in the same circle and we're doing other projects together, I think it's really important that people understand, like, we all have different ways of communicating and different styles and we all have different personalities. And I love the way you use your gifts. Like you said, like some of your gifts allow you to be behind the scenes, but still make such a big impact. And I just want to make sure I acknowledge that for you. What do you
I
hope people
appreciate that.
take? Yeah, absolutely. What do you hope people take away when they see you running these miles? Like what's one thing that you hope when people see you out there running and you're, one of the flyest runners on the team, but besides them thinking you're so fly, what's something that you hope they take away from this?
I hope that they take away that anything's possible. You don't need to be the loudest person in the room. You don't need to be the strongest person in the room. You can have the worst mental breakdown prior. Uh, Anything's possible. And you can, if you set your mind to do it, you can achieve it. And I think that's what I want people to realize. It's like, I've got people hit me up like, how do you run? How do you run now? And I'm like, consistency. Like I woke up and I chose to do this. And that's one thing that I want people to see is like, it's not overnight. I don't have the best genetics, but I'm still out here making it. I'm still getting it done. It's not, it's just really about just getting up and getting active. So that's the biggest thing that I want people to take away is that anyone can do it. You just have to have the right mindset.
Absolutely. I love that. And with mental health and suicide prevention being kind of at the heart of this project, um, why is that personal for you? I know, and I know you shared with me when we very first started, you kind of alluded to me that mental health was important to you, but why mental health? Like what's like a reason why you really want to do this when it comes to that particular subject?
Yeah, I think, mental health and suicide prevention they work together hand in hand. The stronger somebody's mental health is, ideally, the better they'd be off as far as suicide prevention goes. I know in college, I had a friend who committed suicide, and we all thought he was the happiest person. None of us knew until we knew. But because of that, we realized that nobody ever checked on him. Nobody ever asked him how he was doing. He was always the person who asked us how we were doing. And none of us knew where his mental health was. He kept it to himself. So for me, just making sure that you're checking on your friends, also checking on yourself and like knowing how to navigate things. For me, it's big. I know like, we all go through moments and periods of our lives where even we might contemplate doing suicide. And I say that jokingly, but it's such a serious topic that we always skirt around, but nobody knows what happens behind closed doors or what happens before you go to sleep or if when rent is due and this happens, like nobody really knows. So I have been a strong advocate for mental health and just being able to wake up and be proud of yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's weird, like a lot of times it's that story where it's like we had no idea, or you never saw it coming, and it's pretty crazy. What are some ways that, like, in light of the fact that you lost your grandfather within this last year, and you're carrying that, and you're like all of us, you're just trying to figure out life and your calling and your passions and work and relationships, like what are some practical things that you could share, maybe just one or a few, however many you want to, that you take care of your mental health? Obviously, there's running, but are there any other things that you do pretty regularly to kind of check in with yourself or to help you stay grounded?
Yeah, I think I first and foremost, I'm very fortunate that I have a solid group of friends that we all regularly check on each other. I think having a great foundation and a great group of people that you can, rely and depend on, as well as vice versa. Iron sharpens iron. So that's one thing. Number two is just to have an outlet. I know a lot of people don't have outlets. They don't have ways to, let go of whatever it is they're feeling. For me, I paint. There's paintings in the background all of my apartment. That's one form of therapy. Or, sometimes I go for a walk or, like running or just having an outlet where if I'm feeling away and I don't have anybody that I can talk to, I at least have a way that I can let out that frustration and I can come back to it when I'm in a better mental state to do so. So those are my two things, finding ways to let out whatever I'm feeling so it's not pent up within inside me.
I love that, man. I need to give you a couple canvases in case you ever get bored and want to
Hey,
get your boy some art in the background right here.
yeah. Let me know when you're
Um,
ready.
so kind of changing over to the relay again, just to get back to that. What are you most looking forward to about the relay this year?
Honestly, I'm looking forward to the challenge. I'm looking forward to the camaraderie, to getting closer with 12 people who I've never met before. Um, and just the challenge of working together. I love a good challenge, and I think that this is the biggest challenge I've ever set out to do. So I'm excited, nervous, but ultimately I know it's going to be a good time. You've curated a good group of runners for us, so I'm just ready to get started.
Awesome. And if your friends are listening or people are listening to this, what are ways they can support your efforts as you set out to do this?
Yeah, so ways you can support me are hit the link in my bio, and it should be the second link to the bottom. Tap that, it'll take you directly to the Sayless page with me on there, and you can go ahead and donate. Or just reach out to me. If you're not tech savvy, shoot me a message, and I can get you set up, and you'll be all good to go. Also follow the Sayless page, the Instagram, and the YouTube or Spotify, wherever it is. Feel free to give it a follow for all the updates will be on there. And again, if you ever see me, feel free to reach out. Feel free to say hi. Feel free to stop me. I consider myself a pretty personable person. That, yeah. So, I'm always down to say hi and chat.
After the relay's over, how do you see yourself continuing this mission of championing mental health?
Yeah. Really just by continuing to champion myself. I want to put myself at the forefront. I want to, there's always like, be the change that you seek. Oftentimes people complain about like, oh, I wish, this wasn't that way or this was that. And I'm like, well, instead of talking about it, be about it. And I can't, give somebody else advice if I can't follow my own advice. So I want to champion myself and then, through that, hopefully it affects somebody else in a positive way.
Man, I love that. That's a mic drop right there. We're gonna end it right there. Before I let you go, man, I just want to personally, publicly say thank you for supporting Sayless Projects. You've been a pivotal part of this. You were the first person to actually join the team, and you were one of the first people to get behind it and say less. So I really appreciate you and appreciate all the hours and behind the scenes work you've done. And I'm really excited to watch you run with the others and get to get on the other side of this project and really experience it for yourself. And so I just echo what Noble said, man. If you can, go to the link in his bio or Sayless Projects, support his efforts, make a donation, get behind what he's doing along with the others. And so, Noble, best of luck, man, on the road. We'll see you
Yes,
soon out
sir.
there. If
I'll
this
be around.
if this resonated with you, make sure that you follow, like, subscribe to all of our channels, and we look forward to keeping this thing going.